our focus remains on the tragic airplane crash that has happened in South Korea, claiming the lives of 179 passengers with only leaving 2 survivors. The Jeju airplane crash at South Korea's Muan, the death count of which has now climbed to 179, presumed death took place moments after the Jeju aircraft attempted a belly landing. Videos of the moments before the crash show the plane dragging on its underbody before crashing into a wall. The aircraft, flying from Bangkok in Thailand to Muan, had 181 passengers on board, of which 175 were passengers and 6 were crew members. The National Fire Agency has said they have rescued 2 people and all others are feared dead. Visuals are capturing the plane crash show the aircraft dragging on its belly before it rams a wall and goes up into flames. Pilots attempt belly landing when during a landing gear malfunction after a regular landing attempt failed. This could have been the result of a bird strike. Lee Jong-hoon, the chief of the Muan fire station, has told the media that bad weather contributed to the tragedy. He stated, and I quote, "The cause of the accident is presumed to be a bird strike combined with adverse weather conditions. However, the exact cause will be announced following a joint investigation." All right, my colleague Aditya is joining me live on the broadcast. Aditya, in fact, in the latest developments that we are tracking very closely, as in fact the updates have surfaced, 179 are now feared to be dead at this point of time. The Jeju Air flight crashes in South Korea, and this is in fact one of the major worst hit crash that South Korea has reported after the year 1997.
Well, absolutely, Simran. It is an unfortunate incident, this air crash that has happened in South Korea. Recently we've also seen that, a plane had crashed in Kazakhstan, and also a Canadian plane has also landed with its landing gear broken. So these are all very serious concerns, as far as the passenger safety is concerned. The Boeing. Let us put this into perspective, that for our viewers, that Boeing has had a history of such safety issues. In the late 2018, there were similar crashes of involving Boeing aircraft in Ethiopia, and then an investigation was launched regarding that. There have been many instances where while takeoff, an American airline plane's door was left open in the sky, so that Boeing has a history of, involved in such mishaps, so it needs to be seen, because the aircraft are a little bit of outdated, and, the advanced version of the aircraft are not yet continuously manufactured by the Boeing. That is one concern which needs to be looked at. Also, if we are talking, in generally, if we talk about the safety of the aircraft, even the radar systems should be working, whenever the plane lands or takes place, because that ensures that there is no mishap during the takeoff or landing. Also, here comes the role of ATC. There should be a standard operating procedure given to the air traffic control, ATC towers that are located in the airport, which manage the air traffic to, so that they should follow some emergency SOPs, to avert such incidents. It needs to be seen as to, so far, in this South Korea's crash, all the flights, domestic and international flights to and from South Korea have been banned till now, as the rescue operations are still undergoing. The fire tenders are dosing the fire that was
all right,
happened
Aditya, I'll
after the
request
crash.
you to kindly stay on with us for the while. Now, Dr. Major retired Augustin Vinod, who's an aviation expert, seasoned aviation expert, is joining me live on the broadcast. Appreciate you speaking to me live, sir, and thank you for in fact giving your time. The crash that has happened this morning, which has in fact shown very tragic and worrying visuals, was the worst aviation accident involving a South Korean airline since the Korean air jet slammed into the hill in Guam in a US territory in the Western Pacific in the year 1997. And that crash had killed 229 of the 250 passengers on board. And this appears to be, in fact, due to the landing that is being suspected to be the reason. What is the understanding of what went wrong initially when this scale of the crash that has happened?
Question. A couple of points I want to add and put certain things that Aditya covered in perspective. First and foremost is I fly these aeroplanes, so day in and day out. I mean, so with that as the background, I say this. Carrying out a gear-up landing in an airliner is a controlled exercise. Controlled exercise in three senses. First, you burn up fuel as much as possible so that when you touch, because the engines are low slung and the fuel goes into the engine, when you touch, the chances of fire is minimal. And just before you touch down, you cut off all the fuel supply to the engine so that even the sparks don't light up the fuel, residual fuel and the oil. And you have less, I won't say less chance of fire, the less intensity of fire. And you calculate the entire landing distance. In some airfield, they even spray a foam on top of the runway so that it doesn't catch fire. That apparently, and all the time, all the safety services are in every taxi track, like, a road kind of a thing that connects the runway. In every taxi track, there is a safety service, that is a fire engine services waiting for you. So wherever you stop quickly, the fire engine comes and douses the fire. All these things are not seen in this particular case. So that leads me to believe that it was an unplanned gear-up landing. Second, unplanned gear-up landing cannot happen in an airliner for simple reason. When you approach the runway without the gear, there is an oral warning and there is a visual warning. And contrary to what Aditya was saying, 737-800 is the newest version, a version before MAX. It has all possible electronic equipment, all possible avionics that is there in MAX is there in -800, including something called GPW's ground proximity warning system. So when you approach the runway with the gear up, it says too low gear, too low gear. It keeps warning you. If you don't take the flaps, like I see in the video, the flaps are partially lowered. It says too low flaps as well. If you don't do anything, when you come closer to the terrain, pull up also, the warning it gives you. So it just, the noises and the warning is so loud and so annoying, you cannot land this aeroplane with the gear up, even by mistake. So by mistake landing, unless you switch off that particular warning system, it is impossible to land this aeroplane, any airliner for that matter, with gear up. So that is point number 2. Point number 3 is you lowering a gear in an airliner is the easiest thing to do. The gear goes up due to hydraulic pressure, but if the hydraulic pressure is not enough, or the hydraulic failure has happened, or engine has failed, or both engines have failed, even then you can lower the gear with something called gravity extension. How does gravity extension work? I'll take 10 seconds to explain it to the viewers. The wheel is held up with 2 mechanical locks like this. And there is a cable that connects to the cockpit to the mechanical lock. It's like a U-lock kind of a thing. You rotate a handle and the cable gets pulled and the U-lock mechanism opens, and the gravity, which the wheels weigh tons, the gravity takes care of it and the wheel falls down and locks in place. So even without electrical, even without hydraulic, even without anything, you can lower the landing gear in an airliner. In fighter aeroplane, it is not possible because it is a complex gear mechanism. Here, it is a very simple mechanism. It just goes up, comes down. So gear lowering, I don't think is the issue in this case, unless something really out of the world has happened and even the mechanical cable is broken, which is 2 actually. Mathematically, something that is impossible. Fourth and very important aspect, which probably most of us are not discussing, most of the channels are not discussing at all, is the geopolitical situation between North and South Korea and the internal political situation that is happening in South Korea, leading to impeachment and stuff like that. Could it be a broken arrow? Could it be some unwanted element entered the cockpit? These are issues that, to me, at the moment, sounds more plausible than any of the issues that I talked about. Whether it is, landing with gear up or by mistake landing with gear up and stuff like that. But as days goes by, or at least couple of days go by, we will have the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, aka the black box, uh, immediately analyzed, and a preliminary report is likely to come out because so much of domestic and international pressure will be on Jeju Airlines as well as on the country to let people know what went wrong. That is something I am really
Just
looking
one thing
forward to
to put
looking
in
at it.
perspective also, as in fact you have gone in much detail to explain the causes and to give the answers to most in-depth questions. But in comprehension to what seems to be on the surface, what can be the most essential learning specifically from this level of a tragic incident, because given the fact it has been a most tragic one for even the South Korean airlines as well?
Super question. In fact, I wrote about it as well. Air travel today, in areas where there is a little bit of turmoil, is turning out to be an affair fraught with danger. Back to back, we have had two. One is a fratricide case of Azerbaijan Airlines, which happened a couple of days earlier. And this, like I said, the plausible scenario could be not technical and could be something else. So, air travel to turmoil region is something that, I mean, whomever I speak to, including some of my friends who frequently fly to these areas, are now looking at it with a microscope. That is one. And second is the fear of flying a Boeing is something that is also slowly creeping in because the last three crashes have been Boeing, two of Max and one of this. So Boeing itself is under a lot of scanner, and I don't know whether this what the outcome of this crash is going to be, but Boeing is certainly going to take a hit.